Good afternoon, it's me, Scotty Bones, back for another video. It's November 8th, Friday, 2024. Today I want to talk a little bit about why I'm in Mexico and what I'm doing here. So last year, my wife and I decided that we were going to get temporary residency cards for Mexico. So we did all the research necessary, found a way to do it through financial solvency, gathered all the documents, gathered all the paperwork necessary from the banks, and made an appointment with the Mexican consulate in Portland, Oregon. It was a little hard to get the appointment because they don't answer phones and it takes quite a bit of effort and emails to get them to respond to the email. And I've heard that since this year started, it's become even more difficult to get in touch with embassies and consulates all over the country. So anyway, we got our appointment for January 4th of this year. And it was actually the day after we returned from a trip to Mexico over the winter. So we actually flew in to Eugene, Oregon, the next morning, drove to Portland with all our paperwork and got the appointment and got approved. The next step after getting approved is that you have to go to Mexico. It doesn't have to be any specific place, but it has to be a city that has an INM office, which I think stands for Instituto Nacional de Migración. We chose to go to the one in Ensenada because it was the closest one to Oregon by car. So we drove straight from Oregon to Los Angeles in one day, visited some family in the area. The next day we drove to Ensenada, which was a Sunday. The following morning I got in line bright and early, and we got into the office and we were able to do the paperwork there, pay the fees, and get our temporary residency card in Ensenada. Our plan had been to drive this summer or fall from Oregon to Texas, and then from Texas down to south central Mexico to the state of Puebla. With that in mind, I had rented a small house down here in Puebla on Airbnb for a month. In the ensuing time, different things happened. Life happens, and my wife and I decided that we weren't really up for a nearly 4,000 mile drive with our dog in the car. So we had this rental on our hands and we were just going to let it go. But then my wife encouraged me to come down here and spend a month. So I took that opportunity and I came down here with doing research and writing in mind. So I've been here, today is the 23rd day, and I've been here for 23 days writing. I have 26,000 words of a rough draft of a book project or whatever it turns out to be, because book publishing isn't necessarily the only way to get your message across anymore. But regardless, I have a fat, decent start to a rough draft, which I won't talk about right now, because I don't feel like explaining it, because it's a little bit convoluted still, and I need to distill the focus down further until the actual theme tightens up. But it does have to do with freeing one's mind from the conditioning and brainwashing that we've all been subjected to throughout our lives in the United States. How's that? So I've been here. I leave here on the 13th of November. My plans are somewhat open-ended, but I have booked a flight today to Nayarit, which is on the coast near Puerto Vallarta, in a little town on the coast. Someone we know in Oregon has a house there that has been unoccupied for 15 years. So I'm going to Nayarit to inspect this house and see what kind of shape it's in and see if it's worth the effort for me and my wife to buy it, make a bid on it, and fix it up essentially, and have a house in a little beach town in Nayarit. So I'll be going there next week for that, and I'll be down there for, I think, a week. I only bought a one-way ticket there. So I'll be checking it out, checking out the town, seeing if it seems like it might be worth doing, especially if the price is right. So that's what's going on. The reason we became temporary residents of Mexico was to have more options other than just the United States. So Mexico is near and dear to our hearts. My wife's family has been coming down here since the early 70s. Well, they haven't in recent years, but they spent many a road trip in Baja California before the main highway was paved. My wife studied in Mexico during college. We like the culture, despite its many flaws and many challenges. It's a pretty good place to hang out. Pretty inexpensive. I have spent an average of $8 a day on food and a few other things like soap and paper towels and a couple odds and ends like that. But $8 a day. And that has me eating meat when I want it, mostly vegetables, lots of tortillas, and a few eatings out. I've eaten in a restaurant once or twice and eaten some street food a handful of times, but mostly just making food in the kitchen of the house here and getting up very early in the morning, 5 o'clock every day, and write as much as possible, reading tons of books, just doing it till I can't handle it anymore. So some days when I have more energy, could be a 12, 14-hour day. Some days, which is more of the norm, I'll get up, do my morning stuff, work from 8 until about 2, take a break, get back on at about 4, till about 6, make some dinner, and then by then I don't have much of a focus, so I will look at books and just make notes, copy and paste sections into note pages on my computer and use them for reference for writing text the following day. So that's what's going on down here. If anybody has any questions about getting residency in Mexico or where to go in Mexico, I have a few ideas, but it's not like I'm an expert or anything, so take it with a grain of salt. And that's it for today. Good afternoon, and have a lovely afternoon.
Bueno. Fantastico.